I wanted to give you guys what I really use and how I really take care of my skin. And so we are launching with 9 products.
Makeup has always been a great way of self-expression for me. I just knew in my soul.
I like to do this side as well when it comes to foundation. I like to keep it rolling around so you could just...
Celebrity makeup brands have just absolutely flopped. First of all, J.Lo Beauty. Girl, I love you, but what was this brand? This entire brand was just super gimmicky and a huge money grab.
Sides of influencer marketing, I see just how strategically and meticulously these campaigns are structured in order to get you hooked to buy a product. Nowadays, when you buy a product, you're not actually buying the product for the function that it serves. You're buying a dream that the brand planted. Like, we gotta be self-aware, okay? Just because Wonyoung used this lipstick doesn't mean just by using the lipstick I become Wonyoung. But for some reason, our brain makes an association between the positive attractiveness of the model and the quality of the product. Doesn't actually match up. You know, they're just trying to sell you more products, okay? They're just capitalizing on your insecurity and your inability to understand that this is just product marketing.
There is a word printed on the back of almost every product in the celebrity beauty aisle, and it is doing absolutely nothing. The word is clean. Sometimes it is non-toxic. Sometimes it is hypoallergenic, or dermatologist tested, or clinically proven.
When it comes to certain cosmetics, can you really trust what's on the label? Turns out a lot of things that claim they won't irritate your skin.
It is printed in a soft lowercase font on a matte box that costs more than the serum inside it. And here's the part that surprises almost everyone. In the United States, not one of those words has a legal definition. Not one.
Senate bill would give the FDA greater authority to regulate potentially harmful chemicals in beauty products, and many big-name companies have signed on to support it.
A company can print any of them on any product at any time, and nobody has to approve it first.
Now, the FDA does not have the power to regulate toxic chemicals in makeup.
So I went through 12 of the biggest celebrity beauty brands in America. I traced who actually owns each one, because in this industry, the founder on the billboard very often does not. I pulled the settlements, the retractions, and the acquisitions. I looked at what the products cost against what is actually in the bottle, and I applied the exact same 3 tests to every single brand, with no exceptions for the ones I personally like.
Now, what is the difference between lip gloss and lipstick?
Well, the lipstick is a stick.
9 of them did not clear the bar. 3 of them did, and 1 of them came so close that I'm going to tell you about it anyway, right before we get to the winners, because I did not build this list backwards from a conclusion I wanted. By the end of this, you will know exactly which of these names is worth your money, which one is charging you $170 for ingredients you can buy at a drugstore, and the one rule you can use in the aisle to check any brand in about 15 seconds. Let's start with why this is even possible. The foundation. Why none of those words mean anything. Most people assume that before a moisturizer reaches a shelf in Sephora, somebody checked it. Some agency, some lab, some form that got filed and stamped. That is not how it works. Under American law, the Food and Drug Administration does not approve cosmetic products before they go on sale.
Now, the FDA does not have the power to regulate toxic chemicals in makeup.
It does not approve the ingredients in them either, with one narrow exception, which is color additives. Everything else, the company decides for itself. The company assesses its own safety, keeps its own records, and puts the product on the shelf. There is no pre-market review, no formulation filing, no independent sign-off. The system runs on the honor code. Now compare that to Europe for a second, because the gap is genuinely startling. The European Union operates from a prohibited list of more than 1,700 substances that cannot go into cosmetics. In one single year, 2023, the EU added 29 more ingredients to that list. The United States federal government, across its entire history, restricts roughly 11. The EU added nearly 3 times America's lifetime total in 12 months. That is not a small difference in philosophy. That is a completely different starting assumption about who has to prove what. And it explains the vocabulary, because when there is no agency defining terms, the marketing department gets to.
The European Union has banned a key ingredient found in many gel nail polishes, citing the potential for harm.
Shows high fluorine levels in these cosmetics, indicating the probable presence of PFAS in just over half of 231 makeup products tested.
Take hypoallergenic. This is the FDA's own position, in the FDA's own words.
Do you have sensitive skin? If so, chances are you may have considered using hypoallergenic makeup.
The agency states that there are no federal standards governing the term, and that it means whatever a particular company wants it to mean. That is not an activist paraphrasing the government. That is the government describing its own regulation of the word. The agency actually tried to define it back in the 1970s, and a federal appeals court struck the attempt down in 1978 after cosmetics companies challenged it. It has been undefined ever since. Cruelty-free is the same story. No legal definition. A company can apply it to the finished product while its suppliers test raw materials somewhere upstream, and nothing about that is illegal. Independent certifications like Leaping Bunny exist precisely because the word itself carries no weight on its own. Dermatologist tested has no standard for how many dermatologists were involved. It could be one. It has no standard for what test was run or what the result was. A product that was tested and performed poorly was still technically tested. Non-comedogenic, clinically proven, vegan, clean, natural. Same category, no definition, no threshold, no referee. There is exactly one phrase on that shelf with real teeth behind it, and it is broad spectrum SPF. Sunscreen is regulated as an over-the-counter drug in the United States, which means defined testing, defined labeling, actual consequences.
In this morning's Health Watch, a big change is coming for sunscreen. Just approved by the FDA, a new sunscreen ingredient for the first time in more than 25 years.
That is the one claim that has to be earned. Everything else is a design choice. Now, the law did change recently, and I want to be accurate about this rather than dramatic. In December 2022, Congress passed the first significant overhaul of American cosmetics law since 1938. It requires facilities to register. It requires companies to report serious adverse events within 15 days and keep those records for 6 years. It requires safety substantiation records to exist. And most importantly, it finally gave the FDA the power to order a recall, which the agency genuinely did not have before. Before that law, every cosmetic recall in American history was voluntary. That is real progress. But notice what it did not do. It did not give the FDA authority to approve products before they launch. It did not give the agency broad power to review and ban ingredients. The honor code part is still the honor code. So the question for every brand on this list is not whether some lab found something in a jar. That is not the story. And anyone telling you it is has usually skipped the part where they checked. The real question is simpler, and it is much harder for a brand to escape. The 3 tests. Every brand here got measured against the same 3 things. Test 1. Who actually owns it? This matters more than anything else on the list because celebrity beauty spans an enormous range. On one end, you have genuine founder-operators who built the company and still run it. On the other end, you have pure licensing, where a celebrity rents out their name and face to a conglomerate that handles formulation, manufacturing, and distribution, and the celebrity's involvement in the actual chemistry is functionally zero. Both of those get sold to you with identical language. Functionally zero. Test 2, what you get for the price. Not whether it is expensive. Expensive is fine, but whether the price reflects what is in the container or reflects the name on the front of it. Test 3, the substantiation record. Has this company ever been made to answer for the claims it printed? Settlements, retractions, regulatory actions?
Functional ingredients like the petrolatum in petroleum jelly, mineral oil, glycerin, detergents. There are aesthetic ingredients that finally a small drop of a magic ingredient that has a negligible effect on the way the product works, but gives the marketers something to sell.
Not allegations, not letters somebody mailed, things that were actually resolved and are on the record. 9 brands failed, at least one. Let's start at number 12. Florence by Mills. We begin with the brand aimed at the youngest customers on this list, which is exactly why it belongs here. Florence by Mills launched in August 2019, fronted by Millie Bobby Brown, and it was built through a company called Beach House Group. Beach House is an incubator. That is a specific business model, and it is worth understanding because it appears repeatedly on this list. An incubator builds the brand, handles the formulation, the packaging, the manufacturing, and the retail relationships, and brings a celebrity in as the face and the majority owner. Brown took a majority stake in late 2020. Beach House kept a minority position. The same incubator built brands for Kendall Jenner and Shay Mitchell. That structure is not automatically bad. And I want to be fair here because one of the genuine winners on this list came out of the exact same incubator. It is what the incubator does with the years in between that separates them. What put Florence by Mills at number 12 is a moment in 2019 that the brand has never really shaken. Shortly after launch, a skincare routine video went up featuring Brown demonstrating the products. And viewers noticed something. Her makeup did not move. Through an entire face wash and a scrub, a full face of foundation and eye makeup sat completely undisturbed. She was going through the motions of applying products that did not appear to be on her hands. The video came came down, Brown issued a statement saying she had been trying to quickly replicate a personal process and had misjudged how to convey it, and honestly, she was 15 years old when that happened, which is worth remembering before anyone piles on. But the damage was not really about a teenager and a video, it was about what the moment confirmed for a lot of people watching, that the distance between the person on the packaging and the product inside it can be much, much larger than the marketing implies. That is the whole theme of this list, and it gets more expensive from here. Victoria Beckham Beauty. This one is going to feel like an odd inclusion, because by the standards of this list, Victoria Beckham Beauty is a legitimately well-run company. It is also the most expensive way to buy the same categories. The beauty line launched in October 2019 and sits inside Victoria Beckham Holdings, which is majority owned by Victoria and David Beckham, with a minority investment from an outside partner made back in 2017. So on test 1, ownership, this passes cleanly. Beckham is not renting her name to somebody else's operation. She owns it. And it worked. The group reported revenue of £112.7 million in its 2024 financial year, up 26%, a fourth consecutive year of double-digit growth. Fashion houses do not usually turn themselves around on the strength of a beauty line, and this one substantially did. So why is it not in the top 3? Because when you apply test 2, the price test, this is where the arithmetic stops working for most people watching this video. This is a luxury line, priced as a luxury line, competing in categories where the functional ingredient list is not meaningfully different from products at a third of the cost. You are buying real quality, and you are also buying the positioning. And at this price point, the positioning is a large share of what you are paying for. There is no scandal here, no settlement, no retraction, nothing on the record. If you have the budget and you love the products, buy them with confidence. But the question this video is asking is not, is it good? It is whether it is worth your money. And there are 2 brands further up this list doing the same job for a fraction of it. The next one built its entire identity on a story, and the story is the problem. JLo Beauty. Jennifer Lopez has spent 30 years being described as ageless, and JLo Beauty was built directly on top of that reputation when the skincare line launched in 2021. The founding narrative is a family secret, olive oil. That is the origin story the brand tells.
One of the secrets that I learned from my mom and my grandma and my aunts is this idea of olive oil and it being such a hydrating ingredient for your face, your body, for your skin.
And the Hero Serum is built around an olive-derived complex, along with niacinamide and a fermented ingredient popularized by luxury Asian skincare brands.
This is the JLo Beauty That JLo Glow Serum. This serum is made to help visibly lift and tighten your skin to give you a younger and more youthful look.
Here is the honest assessment, and I want to be careful and fair about it. Those are real ingredients. Independent reviewers who go through the ingredient list rate the Hero products as plausibly effective for what they are, while flagging the fragrance and the preservative system. This is not an empty bottle. It is a competent formulation. The problem is the distance between what the formulation can do and what the marketing says it does. When a skincare product promises tightening and lifting that you can feel immediately, and promises to visibly sculpt the structure of your face, that is a claim about changing facial architecture, and no topical serum does that. Not this one, not a $200 one, not any of them. Hydration can plump, actives can improve texture and tone over months. The underlying structure of a face is not something a cream reaches. I am not going to speculate about what any individual has or has not had done. That is not my business, and it is not the point. The point is that when a brand attaches a lifting and sculpting promise to a bottle, and the customer is a woman in her 40s or 50s who is genuinely hoping for that result, the gap between the promise and the chemistry is not a marketing quirk. It is the thing she paid for and did not get. That is a substantiation failure, even when nobody has been made to answer for it. Which brings us to a brand where the price alone tells the story. RHODE. RHODE is going to be the most controversial placement on this list. So let me be very clear about why it is here, because it is not about the products. The products are good. RHODE launched in 2022 with a tight, focused line built around barrier repair and hydration. And it did something genuinely unusual in an industry addicted to 9-step routines. It stayed small, around 10 products, priced in the $30 range rather than the $100 range. It resolved an early trademark dispute quietly and professionally rather than through a public fight. In the 12 months ending March 2025, direct-to-consumer only, it did $212 million in net sales. That is an extraordinary result for a brand that young, with that few products. So here's why it is number 9. In May 2025, ELF Beauty announced it was acquiring RHODE for up to $1 billion, $800 million at closing, with up to another $2 $200 million tied to performance over 3 years. It is the largest acquisition ELF has ever made. Hailey Bieber stayed on as Chief Creative Officer and Head of Innovation, and that changes what you are buying. The entire pitch of a founder-led beauty brand is that the founder's judgment is in the product. When the brand becomes an asset on a public company's balance sheet, the pressures change. Margin targets arrive. Volume targets arrive. Reformulation for cost becomes a conversation that happens in a room the founder is not necessarily in. None of that has happened here. I'm not telling you RHODE got worse. I'm telling you that the thing that made RHODE worth recommending, independence, is the thing that just got sold, and the honest answer is that we do not yet know what it looks like on the other side.
Hailey Bieber's skincare brand is falling apart. From broken packaging to burnt lips and allergic reactions.
It burns so much, like it physically hurts.
Buy it if you love it. Just know what it is now. Number 8 is the opposite problem. That brand does not exist anymore at all. SKKN by Kim. Here's a genuinely strange situation. A large number of people are still searching for, and in some cases still trying to repurchase, a skincare line that has been discontinued. SKKN by Kim launched in 2022 as Kim Kardashian's elevated science-forward skincare line, replacing her earlier makeup brand. It arrived as a 9-step routine in heavy stone-like minimalist packaging at luxury pricing.
So I'm going to take you through my 9-step process. Step 1 is cleanser. If it's an exfoliation day, this will be step 2. After cleanser and exfoliator, we move to toner. I do a few splash toner onto my hands or a cotton pad.
A basic 3-piece bundle ran somewhere between $147 and $173. The pitch was a professional-grade facial at home. 2 things about it. First, the ownership. Coty had bought 20% of Kardashian's beauty business for $200 million back in 2020, which valued it at roughly $1 billion. Then in March 2025, Skims acquired Coty's stake along with Kardashian's majority position, and SKKN by Kim was wound down. It closed on June 29, 2025, to be relaunched later under Skims Beauty. Kardashian confirmed the plan publicly that October, so the product line people bought into at those prices as a long-term routine no longer exists in the form they bought it. If you built a 9-step regimen around it, that regimen is now unavailable. That is a real cost to a real customer, and it is a risk that comes specifically with brands that exist as assets to be traded rather than as businesses to be run. Second, the launch itself was shadowed by a trademark dispute that is worth knowing about. In June 2022, a federal suit was filed in New York by a small Brooklyn business, owned by a licensed esthetician, which had been operating under a very similar name in the same industry since 2018, years before the celebrity trademark applications. The dispute drew significant attention at the time, largely because of the size mismatch between the two parties. I'm not going to tell you how that should have been resolved. Trademark law is genuinely complicated and reasonable people disagree, but it is on the record, it is part of this brand's story, and you should have it. Now we get to the ones with actual settlements attached. Honest Beauty. This is where the list changes character. Everything up to now has been about structure, price, and marketing distance. From here, these are companies that were made to answer. The Honest Company was co-founded by Jessica Alba in 2011, and it deserves credit for something real. It took the clean and natural positioning out of the expensive boutique space and put it into Target and Walmart at prices ordinary families could actually pay. That was a genuine contribution. It also has the longest paper trail on this list. In 2017, the company settled a marketing class action for $7.35 million. The case concerned how products were labeled as natural and plant-based. In 2022, a separate class action was filed in California over plant-based wipes. And in July 2025, a securities class action received final approval at $27.5 million. That is 2 significant settlements against one company, one about how it described its products to customers, and one arising from its life as a public company. It went public on the NASDAQ in May 2021, and the stock fell 28% in a single day after its second quarter results that year. Now, here's the part I want to be careful about, because there is a version of this story that gets told badly. Honest's actual failure is not that its products were dangerous. Its failure is that it built its entire brand identity on a word that has no definition, natural, and then had to defend in court what it meant by it. When your marketing promise is a term the law does not recognize, you have handed a lawyer the whole case, and it points at something the whole clean beauty category would rather you not think about. Preservatives exist for a reason. A product that avoids robust preservation in favor of gentler alternatives has a shorter safe life in your bathroom, not a longer one. Clean, as a marketing word, has never had to answer for that trade-off, because clean does not mean anything. Number 6 turned a similar credibility problem into a much bigger one. KYLIE Cosmetics. KYLIE Cosmetics is the brand that created this entire category. And its problem is not what is in the products. It is what was said about the business. The brand launched in 2015 with lip kits that sold out instantly, and it built something genuinely new, a direct-to-consumer beauty company, powered almost entirely by one person's social media reach. Every brand on this list exists partly because this one proved it could be done. In November 2019, Coty announced it was buying 51% for $600 million, valuing the brand at around $1.2 billion. Kylie Jenner retained roughly 44%.
She was making tens of millions of dollars selling basically just these lip kits at first, and she didn't spend anything in marketing because she did it all on her own on social media.
Then, in May 2020, Forbes did something magazines almost never do. It retracted its own reporting. Forbes had put Jenner on its cover and called her the youngest self-made billionaire in history. After the Coty acquisition forced real financial disclosures into public view, the magazine published a piece alleging that the family had inflated the brand's revenue figures for years and that the tax documents provided to its accountants were likely forged. Jenner publicly disputed it. Coty's shares fell 13% that day. That is the single most serious credibility item on this entire list, and it is worth being precise about what it is and is not. It is a magazine alleging it was misled about revenue. It is not a finding about product safety. Nobody found anything in a lipstick. The relevant piece for you as a customer is Test 1, ownership. This is a majority-controlled brand under a multinational conglomerate with a perpetual license, sold to you with the intimacy of a personal recommendation from someone you have watched grow up online. The marketing is a friend telling you what she uses. The reality is a corporate licensing structure. One more thing worth noting, and this is to the brand's credit. In July 2021, it relaunched, publicly stating it had removed a large list of ingredients from its formulations. Brands generally do not announce reformulations for fun. That was a response to a category-wide conversation that was happening at the time, and reacting to it was the right call. Number 5 is the only brand here that a government actually made write a check. GOOP. Every other brand on this list has settlements about labeling, or trademarks, or securities. This is the one where prosecutors went after the claims themselves. GOOP started as an email newsletter in 2008 and became a wellness and commerce company with a beauty line inside it. Its entire commercial engine is a vocabulary: clean, non-toxic, chemical-free. Those words are the product, in a real sense, because they are what justifies the price of everything else. In September 2018, the company agreed to a $145,000 civil settlement with a California task force representing 10 county prosecutors. The claims at issue were about specific products, including 2 stone eggs and an essence blend, and the assertions made about what they could do for the body.
This is like a small weight, and so I suppose it tones the pelvic floor. And there are women who, are really good at practicing this, and they say that it's good for balancing hormones and all kinds of amazing.
As part of the settlement, GOOP agreed to refunds for prior purchasers and agreed not to make health claims without reliable scientific evidence behind them. I am deliberately not repeating the specific health claims, and I would encourage you not to go looking for them either. What matters is the principle the settlement established, which is that this company said things about its products it could not support, a government body made it stop, and there is a dollar figure attached. That is the only settled government action over unsubstantiated claims on this list. And here is the deeper issue. GOOP did not just sell products, it sold a way of thinking about products, one where a long ingredient name is inherently suspect and a short one is inherently virtuous. That framework is now everywhere. It is on packaging from companies that have nothing to do with GOOP. It is why chemical is a scare word in an industry where water is a chemical. That framework was built by a company that had to pay to stop making claims. Keep that in mind the next time a label congratulates you for avoiding something. Now, before the 3 that made it, the one that came close, R.E.M. Beauty. I told you at the start that I would tell you about the 4th, and this is it, because if I had drawn the line one place lower, this brand would be in the winners section. Ariana Grande's R.E.M. Beauty launched in late 2021, and it began exactly the way most brands on this list began. As a licensing arrangement, Grande licensed her name to Forma Brands, the parent company of Morphe, and Forma handled the formulation, manufacturing, and distribution. Classic incubator structure. On test 1, that is a fail. Then Forma filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in January 2023. And this is where it gets interesting, because Grande did something that almost nobody in this position does. Rather than let the brand be liquidated along with the rest of the portfolio, she bought it. Roughly $15 million for the physical assets and inventory. taking full ownership and making R.E.M. genuinely independent. The brand reported around $88.7 million in revenue in 2024. It is vegan and cruelty-free and has pursued third-party certification, which is the part that actually means something, as opposed to just printing the words. So why is it at 4 instead of 3? Because the independence is new, and it was not chosen from the beginning. It was the result of a bankruptcy. The founder ownership that makes this brand credible today is about 3 years old, and it arrived through a rescue rather than a plan. The 3 brands above it have all been operator-run from day one, through multiple years and multiple product cycles. That is a genuinely close call, and I want to be honest that a reasonable person could rank this differently. If R.E.M. holds this course for another few years, it moves up. Which brings us to the 3 that actually clear the bar. And the first one is the reason I did not just make this video about everything being a scam. Fenty Beauty. Fenty is the brand that forced an entire industry to change what it stocked, and 8 years later, it still holds up on the tests. It launched in September 2017 through Kendo Brands, which is the beauty incubator inside LVMH, in partnership with Rihanna. Now that is technically an incubator structure, the same category I have criticized elsewhere on this list. So let me be straight about why it lands differently here. It launched with 40 foundation shades. 40. In 2017, that was not a marketing gesture. It was an accusation because the industry standard at the time was to serve a narrow range of skin tones properly and everyone else approximately. Time named it one of the best inventions of that year. The range has since expanded to 50, and within about a year, competitors across the industry, major legacy houses, expanded their own shade ranges in response. That effect got its own name. That is the difference between a brand that used an incubator and a brand that was manufactured by one. The strategic decision at the center of Fenty, the one that defined it, was clearly the founders, and it cost money to make. On the price test, it holds. This is prestige pricing, but not luxury pricing, and the flagship foundation competes directly against products at similar cost without a comparable range. On the substantiation record, it is clean. No settled action about its claims. The honest caveat, and every fair review of this brand mentions it, is that the flagship foundation has a long-running reputation for shifting shade after application on some skin, and for reading dry on drier skin types. Retailer ratings stay high, so the overall sentiment is clearly positive. But it is a known drawback, and you should shade match in person if you can. An 8-year-old brand whose worst documented problem is a color shift is doing considerably better than most of this list. Pattern Beauty. If you want to see what the incubator model looks like when it is used properly, this is the case study, and it is the most underrated brand on this list. Pattern launched in September 2020, founded by Tracy Ellis Ross, built in partnership with Beach House Group. Yes, the same incubator that built number 12. That comparison is the entire lesson. The difference is the timeline. Ross spent roughly a decade developing this brand before launch, including about 2 years of testing. 10 years of development is not a licensing deal. That is somebody who could have taken a check at any point during that decade and chose to keep working instead. And she was solving a real, specific, long-ignored problem. For decades, the hair care aisle served curly and coily hair badly, not maliciously, just as an afterthought, with products formulated for a different hair structure and then marketed sideways. Pattern was formulated from the beginning for the porosity and moisture needs of tightly textured hair, and it launched exclusively at Ulta, in mass retail, at accessible prices rather than as a boutique specialty product. Trade press across the industry has consistently credited this brand with genuine long-term research and development, which is a phrase that gets thrown around loosely and almost never survives scrutiny. Here it does. Founder-owned and founder-run. Priced for the customer rather than for the name. No settlements, no retractions, no regulatory actions. 10 years of work before a single bottle sold. Pattern passes all 3 tests without an asterisk. Only one brand passes them and does it at a larger scale. Rare Beauty. Number 1 is Rare Beauty, and it is not close. It launched in September 2020 at Sephora, founded by Selena Gomez. And the first thing to understand is the ownership structure, because it is genuinely unusual for a brand this size. Rare Beauty has no parent company and no conglomerate partner. It is independently held, with Gomez as founder and primary owner. In a category where the default is a licensing deal or a majority sale, this brand simply did not do that. It also worked commercially at a scale that makes the independence meaningful rather than sentimental. The company reported $367 million in revenue for 2023. When it brought in advisors to consider a sale in 2024, reporting put the valuation around $2 billion. Gomez told Time she had no plans to sell. In February 2026, the brand expanded into Ulta, widening its distribution while remaining independent. On price, it holds up better than almost anything else here. The flagship blush sits around $20. This is a brand doing hundreds of millions in revenue that did not use its cultural position to push prices into the luxury tier, which is precisely the move that every brand lower on this list made. On product, the consumer verdict is close to unanimous. The blush became Sephora's #1 selling blush and had done $70 million in sales by mid-2022. The recurring criticism, and there is one, is that it is extremely pigmented and takes practice to apply, which is a learning curve rather than a defect. And everyone who says it also says a little goes a long way. On the record, there is nothing. No settlements over its claims, no retractions, no regulatory action. And the mission component is structural rather than decorative. A portion of sales funds the brand's mental health initiative. That is not what earns it the top spot. Plenty of brands attach a cause to a product, but combined with everything else, it points at a company that was built to be a company rather than to be sold. Founder-owned, honestly priced, clean record, and it did it at a scale that proves the other 11 did not have to make the choices they made. The 15-second aisle rule. Here's what to actually do with all of this, because the next celebrity brand launches next month, and it will not be on this list. 3 things. 15 seconds. First, turn the box over and find out who makes it. Look for the manufacturer or distributor line in the small print at the bottom. If the name you recognize from the front is nowhere in that line, you are looking at a licensing arrangement, and the person whose face sold you the product is not the person who decided what went inside it. That single check separates most of this list. Second, read the ingredient order, not the ingredient names. Cosmetic ingredients are listed by concentration, highest first, all the way down to 1%. Below 1%, the order is arbitrary. So if a serum is built around some rare botanical, and that botanical appears near the end of a list of 30 ingredients, it is present in a quantity that exists for the label rather than for your skin. Look at the first 5. That is the product. Everything after is seasoning. Third, ignore every word that has no definition. Clean, non-toxic, chemical-free, natural, hypoallergenic, dermatologist-tested, non-comedogenic. None of those have to be earned. The one phrase on the shelf you can actually rely on is broad-spectrum SPF, because sunscreen is regulated as a drug, and that claim has real testing behind it. And if a product says clinically proven, that only means something if you can find the study and see how many people were in it, how long it ran, and who paid for it. That is the whole method. Who made it, what is in the first 5, and ignore the adjectives. I want to end on something that is not about any of these 12 companies. The reason celebrity beauty works is not that people are gullible. It is that following someone for 10 years genuinely does build a feeling of knowing them. And that feeling is real, even when the relationship is not mutual. You watched her career. You defended her when the internet turned on her. When she says, "This is what I use," your brain files it the way it files a recommendation from a friend. Because functionally, that is what it feels like. The industry knows exactly how that works. It is the most valuable asset in this entire market, and it is the one thing that never appears on the ingredient list. None of which means you should not buy any of this. 3 of these brands are genuinely good, and one of them is doing it at $20 a product. Buy those with confidence. What you should stop doing is letting the face on the front of the box do the work that the back of the box is supposed to do. The money you spend at that counter is money you worked for. It belongs to the companies that put it into the bottle rather than into the billboard. So next time you are standing in that aisle, flip the box. Read the first 5 ingredients. Find out who actually made it. The information is right there. It is just printed small on the back in the part nobody is supposed to read. If you want more of these, subscribe, because we are going through the shampoo aisle next, and that one is worse.